I'm Levi Comstock with Countertop Epoxy. Today we're going to be demonstrating a really simple dirty pour. I'm going to show you kind of a few techniques on how to mix some different powdered colors. We're just doing kind of a fun Halloween video, so I hope you follow along and have fun. What we're mixing today is FX Black Label by countertopepoxy.com. I'm going to pour my hardener in first. It really doesn't matter that much. I am going to be switching containers halfway through the mix. We used to always add the hardener first, but since we've been switching containers, it's not really that important. So make sure you're very accurate. I'm mixing 1-to-1 mix ratio with this product here, meaning 1 part A to 1 part B. They need to be very equal. The more accurate you are with mixing this and measuring, the harder your cure will be and the more color stability you'll get out of it. Always leave your container setting flat on the surface. I see a lot of people pick the container up, and that's not a very accurate way to measure. Stop a little before you get to your line because it will settle, and there, that actually turned out perfect. Just remember, when you're working with epoxy, slow down, be clean, be accurate. I really love the FX Black Label epoxy. It is a very hard epoxy. It has some of the hardest short-E ratings you'll get in the industry, as well as it's very healthy compared to most epoxies. We removed a lot of the harmful chemicals out of it, so it is much more food safe. If you like what you're seeing, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and you can watch all the upcoming videos. Throughout the mixing process, make sure every so often, every minute or so, that you stop and scrape the sides and the bottom of the bucket. This really does help get a lot of the unmixed A and B off the walls or floor of the container, and it'll ensure a more adequate mix. Now that I mixed for a full 3 minutes in my first container, I'm going to switch containers into a new container and use a new stick. This isn't really wasting because you'll get a really thorough mix on the number 2 container, and you can generally just peel that epoxy out the next day. But you're way less likely in that instance to have sticky spots of unmixed A or B that could contaminate the surface, which would never dry, and then you'd end up pouring a whole nother coat of epoxy. So spend a few dollars on a bucket and a stick to save money on another coat on epoxy. I'm gonna go ahead right now and mix half of my black in. This container, this 12-ounce container, is good for exactly 2 gallons, and we mixed exactly 1 gallon. So I'm just gonna go pretty close to half the container, and I'm not gonna worry about if it's absolutely perfect or not. I will show you a really simple way to test the color. I'm gonna get a good thorough mix going on here. Now that I've mixed this really thoroughly for approximately 1 minute, I'm gonna take the stick, scrape it off, make sure I'm exposing the wood, dip it in the container. If you immediately see, as you dip it in and pull it out, if you immediately see the wood grain exposed, you know that any hard edges on a countertop or whatnot would also be exposed. So definitely this is a quick, easy way to test your color saturation and see if it's concentrated enough. I'm gonna pour this out, get a good even spread. The only truly lint-free roller is a foam roller. Just remember that. My goal here is not to just try to get the color anywhere particularly. I'm trying to get an even coating of the epoxy. You'll see a lot of people just kind of painting the edges in 1 or 2 spots. What you're really trying to do is take this pile and evenly distribute it to the entire surface. So don't be afraid to go across the surface multiple times to really get that a nice even coat going down. I always push it 2 or 3 different directions to make sure that you're really getting that smooth layer. It'll self-level some on its own, but don't expect it to do all of the work without you spreading it. If you notice, I'm just kind of snow plowing the product towards myself by angling the roller each pass. It's kind of the most common way that I do almost every countertop. And then I'll just quickly go back across the surface at a diagonal for my first pass. And that generally creates a pretty smooth surface. You'll really feel too. You'll really feel any heavier or thicker spots. Remember, the speed you pull the roller will have a lot to do with it too. you don't have to apply a lot more pressure. If you want to pull more product, just slow the roller down and it'll bring as much product as you want. So just really concentrate on the speed more than the pressure. Monica mixed our epoxy for our accent colors. So now we're gonna separate it out into 4 containers here. The one thing I will say, our highlighter is an amazing color, but it is good to put it in the bottom of the cup first. Usually you do the exact opposite with most colors, but with this highlighter, I do like to put it in the cup first, make a slurry with alcohol because it really keeps it from chunking up and clumping up. If you don't mix the color first with some alcohol, the highlighter specifically does tend to have a lot of clumps and chunks in it. Not a ton, just enough to make a paste. If you see how that works very efficiently. Try not to make a mess here. Hocus pocus. I like that because it's just some of the craziest glitter. There's not an exact measurement here, just don't be a wuss. And then purple, it's pretty, so we can't really go wrong. Then we got some trans purple. Yes, please, Monica. Thank you. Oh, I'll be doing it right out of the container. Now the really cool thing you're going to get with that highlighter, because I added that alcohol, it's going to make it a little bit lighter, so it's not going to mix the same as the other colors when you pour it out. It's going to kind of settle and float to the top with a different pattern. You wouldn't want to do that with all the colors because then they just blend together, but to have a little bit of alcohol in one of them leaves a really cool effect. So the other thing I generally like to do is I like to mix when I do dirty pours, and we're not doing it today, but I like to have one of the colors be a liquid color base, because they also you get a lot of really cool lacing when you mix metallic powders with a liquid color pigment. They have different types of surface tension, so you get really cool effects. Now I'm going to pour this. I'm going to pour all these colors down individual corners of this bucket, and if you see, I actually already have 1 full quart of clear in here. So I'll start out with my Hocus Pocus in one corner. My purple in the other, the next. I'll do that last. That's pretty crazy, that might. Okay, now I'm about to pour, but one thing I do like to do first is one swipe through this pail. If I was to do 2 or 3, you'd end up with a really blurred pattern. So do not overmix your dirty pours or you'll be sorry. You'll lose a lot of the effect. So hopefully I don't mess this up. And if you see this is a really blurred, dirty pour effect, you're always gonna get that. It's just really subtle. I mean, but if you ever want a dirty pour to actually pop in anyway, you have to have a liquid color mixed with a metallic. So if you want something really subdued like this will turn out, but you're always gonna get a super blurred effect that's not really crisp if you mix powders only. Now this isn't a big torch. Size-wise, it's a little larger than a normal torch, but really it's just so you can reach a little further across large islands or peninsulas, and it has a little wider of a pattern. Now I'm just barely speckling this with droplets because I want to create a really cool broken marbled effect out of this. Now that I mixed for a full 3 minutes, it's a puppet show.